Hey guys, thank you very much for joining us again for another exciting episode of YOMO. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. So today we're on Reflection 295 and we have a brand new book for you. This is a book called Cinema Speculation by Quentin Tarantino,
You
a
know who
famous
Quentin,
guy.
yeah, you know who Quentin Tarantino is, right?
Yeah, he's
Okay,
a
yeah.
movie director.
Like Pulp Fiction,
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, whatever, those kind of movies. Yeah. So this is the book. It's called Cinema Speculation by Quentin Tarantino. So this is it's kind of like a memoir, but it's not really a memoir. It's more of like him just diving deep into his love of cinema and speculating on cinema and kind of all things that captivated his interest when he was young, and really like diving deep into films from the 1970s in particular that really were the catalyst for sparking his love of film,
Mhm.
right? So he goes through 10 different films and just goes really deep and talks about everything that these particular films did, how they impacted the movie industry, how they impacted him, how they impacted a lot of people and changed paradigms and things like that, and his view, right? So he's really just looking at cinema from a historical perspective and tracking it to how it got to where it is today and some really special things that happened throughout time. So I thought it was an awesome book. It was really, really good. I think I saw this in the airport when I was getting ready to get on a flight, and I was like, oh, Quentin Tarantino wrote a book. I was like, that's got to be interesting, right? He's Quentin Tarantino. I know he's a little nutty, but I know that guy loves movies. I've heard him talk about. Have you ever heard of an interview with him before? I mean, like he's always just super into movies, right? He's just like a movie nerd. Like he's just like one of those. He's a movie nerd. I mean, he's a nerd. He just loves movies, So he's obsessed, and I knew that, right? And this is about meaningful work is contagious is the reflection title for this, right? So I can safely say that I am not a movie buff, right? Like the last time that I went to go see even a movie in the theaters, I can't remember the last time I watched a movie, because like now we have Netflix and stuff like that, So most of the time I watch anything, it's usually like a series or something along those lines. But even on Netflix or HBO Max. Oh, I did one of the books that my wife and I did that was called The Best Movie Year Ever, which was about 1999. One of the movies that are reviewed from that year was Office Space, and I remembered how good Office Space was, and I watched Office Space a couple months ago. That was probably the last time that I can remember watching a movie. The last time I went in person to go see a movie in the theater. In the past 4 years, I think I've only been to one movie. I mean, that was Top Gun 2, the Top Gun sequel that premiered right after the pandemic. People were finally willing to go to the theater again, and they felt free to crowd into the theaters. Bottom line is, I'm not a big movie guy. I'm not going to sit around with my friends and debate cinematography and how Citizen Kane was the best movie ever. I don't care about this. It's just not something that my brain tracks on. However, I knew when I picked up this book, this guy loves it. And spending 10 hours with Quentin Tarantino in an audiobook talking about cinema, I was like, I know that I'm going to learn a shitload. And this is a year of magical learning. And I was like, I think I'm in for a treat. And I was like, shocker, it was great. I started to learn about movies like Bullet and Steve McQueen and Taxi Driver and Dirty Harry, like movies that I've always heard about, but like I don't know anything about them. By the end of reading this book and hearing his passion come through of like how transformational some of these movies were and how amazing Steve McQueen was and what he did and all this other crap, and I'm like, I gotta go watch these movies. Like I still want to go watch them, but I was like, man, this sounds amazing, and I'm listening to him describe it and how it impacted his life and the different things that these directors did and how they were so cutting edge at the time. I found myself after a couple of days after I finished this book, I was over at my parents' house having dinner, and somebody brought up something about Beech Grove, Indiana, which is a tiny little city in Indianapolis. And that's actually where my mom was born, this place called Beech Grove. Indianapolis is made up of like 5 different cities. So you have Beech Grove, Lawrence, Speedway, where the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where they do the Indy 500, Southport, and what's the 5th city? I can't remember, but there's like 5 little actual cities that make up the metropolitan and inner city of Indianapolis. And then you have obviously just like the main downtown area. Beech Grove is one of those cities. That's actually where my mom grew up. It's like 5 miles maybe away from on the southeast side of downtown. And Steve McQueen's actually from Beech Grove, Indiana. So he was born in Beech Grove. And I happen to randomly know that fact for some reason, but somebody was talking about something. I was like, oh, they brought up Beech Grove because, obviously my mom was from that area. And I was like, oh, I just learned that, Steve McQueen was from Beech Grove. And she was like, oh, yeah. And then they started talking about it and whatever. And then I started talking about like, this book that I was listening to and, learning about like Bullet and whatever other movies and things like that he was in. And anyway, it was bizarre. I found myself just like randomly talking about Steve McQueen and movies from the 1970s with my parents on a random Sunday night or whatever it was. And I went over there for dinner and I was like, this is weird. This is what meaningful work does though for people, right? When you're around people that have their full soul in the game, you just feel it, you absorb it. It makes you want to go explore what they're exploring a little bit. It makes you want to go engage, and they're so excited, so into, and so have so much love that's exuding out of them as they're talking about the stuff that is literally contagious. The more and more that you're around people like this, you know it when you're around somebody. And I swear to God, if you can spend a decent amount of time with somebody that has their full soul in the game and truly loves what they're doing, and bringing out all of their values and their meaningful work, I guess, and you have the opportunity to consume their knowledge of that space, like soak it in like it's the best wine you've ever had in your life and savor it like a fine one. Because I swear to you, spending 10 hours with Quentin Tarantino talking about 1970s movies is more, you will learn more from that than almost anybody else you ever meet in your life. You know what I mean? Like coming across any amount of time you ever spend with anybody else, like you will learn more from this guy, in that 10 hours of time you spend with him, just listening to him talk about movies, than you have with anybody. I mean, it's just meaningful work is just that powerful, and it just really sucks you in. So like that was what this book made me think about, honestly, was like, that's kind of our goal, right? Is like, this is what I think of, not just him, like, but some of my favorite authors, their meaningful work is contagious. Like we talk about this with Stephen Covey, and you're like, putting 30 years, 40 years of somebody's life into a book, or Adam Grant or Darren Hardy and Simon Sinek and Bill Bryson and Nassim Taleb and Daniel Kahneman and Jonathan Haidt, Jay Shetty, all these people, right? Like these people, what they wrote for us and what we have the time to go spend with them, you can feel how much they love their meaningful work. And I hope someday people see this stuff with you and I, or maybe other works that we put together, or other stuff that we do, or just being around us in Clubany someday, and they're like, these guys really do care about other people finding meaningful work. I think they really do. And they'll learn more from us if they just sat around and listened to us for 5 hours. I'd love to get your thoughts. I'll just pause there. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, when we say meaningful work, you think about meaningful work. Meaningful work usually equals world class. Because when you do meaningful work, you are so drawn to it that sometimes it takes real willpower to pull you away from. And because you are world class at it, I mean, you spend so much time on that particular subject that will trump anyone else that even try to be in the vicinity of it. Right. And so when you look at the Stephen Covey, the Adam Grant, Darren Hardy, Jonathan Haidt, Kahneman, I mean, these guys spend, like you say, 40, 50, 60 years. And not only that, but they have also leveraged the shoulders of giants before them. They have taken the studies and the experiments they have done way before them and distill it into what they understand. And not only that, but also orchestrate it in a way that it's easy for you to understand and grasp. Because we're talking about making something impeccable, making something simple. I mean, it takes a master to make that simple.
Hard.
And it's out. So when somebody is able to give you meaningful work, they are world class at what they do. World class means that so much information has been ingested and organized and placed properly in a certain understandable pattern for us newbie to be able to consume it. Right. Think about that. Useless information. Many information need to be distilled. The thing is, the difference between, if you think about what I said before, I say, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom?
One is, it's in your bones. I mean, that's wisdom.
To me, my definition of knowledge is whatever information I was given, that's knowledge. I know of it. But in order for me to use that knowledge and distill it something I can use, that's wisdom. You cannot copy someone else. You have to make it your own. Understand them, use them as inspiration, and make it your own. Wisdom is able to change the knowledge and apply to what you can use for yourself.
That's really what this book was about. Like, I mean, this was him dissecting other people, the giants that came before him that inspired him ultimately become a giant himself. But like he studied these people like hard. like hardcore. And this is what he did. This is what he spent his time doing. He studied and studied and studied, and eventually informed his own beliefs and thoughts. But like, he put his own unique twist on it. And then if somebody were to ask him how he did what he did, this is it. If somebody were to ask us, how did we learn what we've learned? Well, we've been documenting it the entire time. It's not like we're hiding that stuff.
To where we are is a result of
an insane amount of hours.
Like, insane amount of hours.
If you total up this entire journey, let's say I think it was 289 books by the finishing of it. So I'm probably at like 320 or something like that. These are new books, right? Like I reread multiple of them, but let's just say new books, right? Like 320. Let's say they were on average 8 hours audiobooks or something like that, So what is that? 320 times 8.
Calculator.
Yeah, no, 2,560 hours, right? Plus the amount of time that you and I have talked about this. So put another hour times 365 that we've, that we're, or 265, I guess, or whatever we're on, 295. So that's another 295 hours plus the amount of time that it took me to write all these things, which, so at least an hour, I would say. So another 300 hours or so, or 400 hours or something like that. Plus, plus.
Understand that it's not only the hours that we are actually doing activity that you can count, but the hours of actually living out these core values.
Oh, yeah. Like putting them into practice.
And that's the practicum of the whole process. That's the most important part.
Oh yeah.
It's you say, hey, I am putting into practice. To me, learning something, it's like 1/10 of the way. You have to put into practice, and that is the majority of the effort you have to put in. And so you think about what we've done in the past 3 years, right?
Right.
Past 3 years, you and I have been living this core value and tweaking the core value we do, and using our feedback loop to understand what it is that we need to steer this company towards. And so you're looking at that's what I'm saying is from the perspective of the hour spent, the effort we spend on this is insane. And you think about if you say somebody has let's say has a teaching degree, they go to school for what? I mean, a certificate, like probably like 6 months, and they, get a teaching certificate and go to teach you.
Right.
And then you go to psychology, right? Psychology, people go to psychology and they probably take, I don't know, in the whole entire 4 years of psychology, take how many hours psychology? It probably take like, hey, I'm taking like maybe 40 credits or 100 credits. Yeah. And then the psychology spectrum spans so large that they're going to spend maybe an hour of each of the particular sub concentration they're in, right? And to you, that's like maybe 100 hours or less, or maybe an hour less of, hey, how to help this person in this situation. And this is what they go out there and they start doing the profession in. That's what they call, quote unquote, expert on. You think about the 1 hour of lecture. Let's say I have diabetes, right? The doctor who are even in the gastrointestinal field, him treating a specific diabetes, he probably has like maybe 6 hours of training. And he's the guy who's telling me how I should feel, how I should take forward, how I should treat myself, and blah, blah. And here I am living with diabetes for the last like 20, 23, 30 years, right? So you think about the differences in terms of the effort. And you look at me and you, like, hey, me and you are living this for 3 years. We have more experience than anyone who's trying to preach you on something that they're trying to, quote unquote, learn and become an expert at. Don't get me wrong, there are therapists who are really good because they love it and that's become their meaningful work. And that's what they think all day and every day because that's what they do, that's what they live. That to me is a good therapist. But most therapists aren't like that. They say, well, I just got to do this thing. I just got to learn my continuing education for blah, blah, blah hours. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell people how they should be treated. I'm an insurance agent. I'm a financial planner. I mean, financial planners and investment bankers, how much they invest. The thing is, when we're talking about the guy who rides a subway to work, to invest for the guy who drives a Ferrari, you're talking about, that's a big disconnect, big gap. So when we look at somebody who is, quote unquote, meaningful work, this is who they are. They live it. It's not just doing it because if it's meaningful for them,
it's all day.
It's every day. It is like, I remember this commercial on TV back then. It's like you sleep football, you eat football, you play football, everything football, right? to me, when you have meaningful work, that's what you are doing. Is you actually embrace it in every single moment, every single cell that you have.
Right.
And when you do that, you become world class. And then when you do that, you exude the emotion. When
Right.
you exude emotion, people pick up the emotion. They say, "Well, this guy." I mean, it's contagious because
It is.
emotion
I
to
mean,
emotion, you match the wavelength of this person. When
right.
I'm very energetic, right, you're gonna say, "Hey, get some energy from this guy." Or if I'm saying, "Oh, I'm so bored," and blah blah, right? But you feel that, hey, your energy starts to drop just
Right.
because we try to match the person energy. And when you talk with somebody who is so into whatever they're talking about, their level of energy rises and it exudes to you, and you match his level. And to
Yep.
me, this is why it is so extraordinary and so
It shouldn't be. That shouldn't be.
energizing to listen to somebody who has the game.
Yes.
You
Like
think about it. When
it
you
is.
say, well, you feel the guy because when I read Taleb's book, right, I was like, I feel for you, man. Because
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
he still exudes in emotion and he means what he said, and you can sense that. And I think this is what I think what's so interesting and so energizing to kind of get to know the people who actually put their life work into a book. And I think these books are the type of book that I'm looking for.
Book you should read. You should never read a book by somebody that doesn't have their full soul in the game, that isn't meaningful work. My wife comes to mind when I think of this stuff. She really, really cares about equity and inclusion. Feel however you want to feel about these topics, but she really cares. She goes to conferences, she reads her books, she's obsessed with this stuff, her favorite authors and things like that. She implements a lot of these things in the school that she's a principal of, right? She talks about these things, she explores these topics, she does this stuff all the time. Her meaningful relationships are around these kind of things, right? If she wanted to talk to me about this, I would listen, right? She's got her whole soul in the game. It doesn't matter what I think about it. I'm not a movie buff. I don't care. It doesn't change the fact that I still won't be
interesting story because we are
right.
drawn to the other person's story, right? Because the
Yeah.
thing is, his story isn't as exciting or whatever as like, hey, the plot of a hero and a twist and turn
Right.
and that. But it is interesting to us because
Oh my
that's
God.
human.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Matthew McConaughey's book was like that, man. Like I was like, holy shit, like this guy, he's got his soul in the game of his world, of how
Mhm.
he acts. Like, I mean, like he's like it's not a shtick. Like he's legit. Like, I mean, he is like that. This has been one of the weirdest things that I've experienced when I, read these books and stuff like that. I know when I have like this feel, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but like you know that feeling when you're like you just feel like a connection to somebody, like, or whatever, like
Mhm.
there's books that I read when I don't feel that connection. I remember like that book Procrastinate on Purpose. I didn't feel that connection with that guy. I think he was just spouting off things that he had learned and that he thinks is right, but he doesn't actually believe in his soul that it is right. Or this book, It's
Is
About
it
Damn
is it
Time.
isn't that a lot of books out there? It's a rare find to find a book that people put the soul in the game because the thing is, we don't really care about the plot as much as the connection to a human soul. I think if
Agree.
you write a book, regardless of how you tell it
Or
and
and
what it's
anywhere
about, it's
you
not
share any
about the.
story.
You can tell any story about somebody who is gonna live in a farm or doing this and that. It's still interesting because there is a connection. We only care about the connection, and
Right.
that is human nature for us, right? It isn't about trying to have this epic, legendary plot or anything like that. We
Right.
don't really care because even if you have something that is legendary plot, but it's like something else, like an alien or something that you can't really relate to, it isn't as heartfelt, right? Your emotion aren't moved, but because we have the gene, because this is why our human species have been able to surpass the Neanderthals and become the apex, is because we're able to connect with one another without even speaking. We can look at other people's eyes and tell, hey, this person is this, a person is that, and you can even tell them what to do without even saying, because we can
Mhm.
project that into the other person. That connection between human and human, it is so ingrained into our core DNA. That's what passed on. That becomes the foundations of our survival. And I
Mhm.
think that carries on to us today. And that's why we yearn to have the connection. If you have $1 billion, but you can't share it with anyone, how, I mean, you think about it. Just, I mean,
Right.
you don't have to answer the question, but think about it. It's like, hey, something is not right. Something is off,
Yeah, it's
right?
worthless. Yeah.
It's worthless because you mean there's no sense of satisfaction. The emotion is in there. The emotion actually it becomes worse because it feels like something is it's on your shoulder, it's pushing you down and it's suppressing you. versus you have to something lifted, something you have to say. A lot of people can't keep a secret because depending on what kind of secret it is. Hey, I have a good secret about longevity. Let's say life, whatever. I have a secret about sleep. I must tell you. I am
Right.
so compelled to tell because
Yeah.
without it, I can't. Even if you don't receive it.
I think what you're saying, the exact words you're saying to me is like what's coming to mind is why I hate philosophers so much. Because I feel like they're always just talking about rhetoric, about observing and sharing what they observe, and they don't ever go down to the valley floor, mix it up, and figure out, is this really what you believe? Or is this just
nonsense?
Right. I find it hard to engage with philosophers so much because the content, I don't know that they believe in it. I think that they believe in it, but I don't think they actually
think that you believe in it, and believing in it is different because we talked about it yesterday. Conclusion of that book, right? We saying, hey, if I were to go back and have a time machine and go back to my, in the past and tell my 20-year-old self, okay, to believe in something else, to me, it makes no difference because that guy believed in hustling, believe in doing whatever. And so he believes it so much. He believes it. It's not like it's a lie. He didn't tell a lie, but his life suffered. He feels just like for you, for example, you believe you have to be this great person and do all this great thing, but you have panic attack because it doesn't fit because what you believe and what you truly believe is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when you believe that, hey, I believe I can eat a frog, right? And I believe I love eating the frog. But your body doesn't say, no, I don't like the frog. And so regardless of what you believe, so it's not about that they lie to you. They truly think they know. They truly think they believe in it, but it isn't the right kind of belief because it isn't aligning with your body, right? Your mind. So let me take you back then. When we're talking about your body and your mind is essentially the rider. Your body is the elephant and the rider. We're talking about this in the happiness hypothesis in the book, Think Fast and So. I want to make sure that the audience understand what we're saying is when we're saying
meaningful
these two
work is
things
connecting
are separate.
they're separate. Meaningful work is connecting them together.
In order for you to have meaningful work, it has to align with both.
Right.
It cannot be because you cannot say, hey, the rider wants to go left, the elephant will go to right, right? And you forcing the elephant to go left, and you think, hey, this is the right way. Right. It's not. It's a whole package deal. So in order for you to have meaningful work, you have to have both of those aligned.
It's like Bill O'Reilly, spouting off about, religion and whatever, sexually assaulting his coworkers and doing all this stuff. Like, this is when you get those dichotomies of people that you're like, they did that? Because they weren't in alignment with, their rider and their elephant.
Right, because they think that, hey, this is the right way, but the elephant thinks something different. And then eventually you're going to slip because you're going to be dozing off somewhere and the elephant does the things. And then, that's why you get panic attack whenever you think you're on the right path.
Imposter syndrome comes from, like, have you ever heard this term imposter syndrome all the time now these days? Like, because like people think that they shouldn't be where they are. Like, do you think Quentin Tarantino has ever had imposter syndrome on movies?
No.
He may have gotten nervous about how people were going to receive his meaningful work that he put out there, but I don't think he ever was like, kidding me? I know about movies. I've been studying movies since I was born. This is my life. This is what I do. This is who I am. I don't have imposter syndrome in this conversation.
Like I told you, I don't care if I'm the only one standing on an island. I will stand on that island by myself. We feel the same way. You are willing to stand alone on an island if you have to. Because when you do that, you're both alone. You are so anchored in what you do. You're so at peace with yourself. Regardless of what you do, it's still going to be a satisfying life. You can be a billionaire, but if you and your rider and your elephant is not aligning, I don't care if you're a trillionaire. It does not have a satisfaction of, hey, I did something that I want. I just say I got this, but
it's not inauthentic. It's so authentic. I was just having a conversation today with one of my teammates who's a little frustrated right now. She's getting really frustrated with a lot of elements of this job and the job that she's asked to do, of maybe some of her people that she has to be aligned with, and the teams that she has to work with. There's a lot of problems to solve. There's a lot of things that feel like are frustrations with her. And she's like, expressed to me, because we developed an open relationship of trust and openness, right? For people where they feel like they can share this stuff with me. And she told me, like, I don't I'm worried that I'm, not good at this job, or something's going to happen to my job potentially, or something along those lines. The truth of the matter is, when I'm explaining to her about the art of running uphill, the art of running downhill, and she's telling me, she literally was like, I feel like for the past month, I've had no energy when I come to work every single day, just because I just feel like there's just like this, like, stuff that I just don't want to deal with, that it's impeding my path. And, she's like, I still love my job and I like what I do, but like, it's just whatever. Anyway, as she's describing all this stuff to me, I'm literally telling her the same stuff that you and I talk about all the time about the art of running uphill, the art of running downhill, the same, making sure that you put your love in your work. And if you're feeling this way, listen to your thoughts, go back and think about these things. My point being is, I know what I'm saying to her is truly coming from a place of, I've studied a lot about this stuff. I feel like I love these topics. These are things that I'm going to continue to iterate on in my own life, and I'm going to continue to iterate on with them. I'm hearing the same stuff that you and I talk about all the time. When's the first time to fire somebody? The first time you think about it. When's the first time you hate your job? The first time you probably think about it. Like, you should probably quit. When's the right time to quit your job? The first time that you go, I think I'm losing. I think I'm having to exert a lot of willpower just to do this job. Like, I mean, it's like, these are things that, like,
not aligning.
Something's not aligning, right? And this is what I'm explaining to her as well. I didn't say point blank where I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. You probably shouldn't be in this role. And it's true. Like, her outcomes aren't what she wants them to be, and they're not probably going to change, right? Like, and I'm not saying that she's a bad person or something like that. She's a great person. She's a great cultural fit. This is where we get into the weird shit, of Club Any light versus full Club Any. Because if that was the case, we would just go, well, what do you want to do? Like, you're a great cultural fit. You're somebody that wants to be a DDI, a deliberately developmental individual, but maybe this particular expression of that isn't your thing. Go spend some more time and figure that out. Like, figure out how do you connect your elephant and your rider together, and making sure that those things all come together so you could go find and experience meaningful work. Because I think that everybody deserves that. Like, I truly believe this in my soul, in my being, that I think that everybody deserves the opportunity to have this feeling that we're talking about of connecting what you love and what you do, and connecting that all together so you feel that alignment, right? And like, it's not bullshit. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I feel it right now, and it makes me feel like I'm on the right path of my own life, and it makes me feel connected to my daughter. It makes me feel like you and I are helping other people. And like, I don't think you can not listen to me and tell me that I'm fucking lying to you right now. You know what I mean? You could have listened to me 4 years ago, and you would have said, hey, Chris, if I'm telling you just got to hustle harder, you got to grind, you got to go run up that hill. This is what I would have been telling her. You know what I mean? I guarantee, like, this would have been the conversation in my previous manager.
It's called life hacking.
I'm trying to convince her to almost quit her job, man. Like, I'm literally like, and before I would have been like, we can do this. Get up that fucking hill, motherfucker. Like, let's go. Like, like, and I would have.
But the
like,
thing is,
why?
eventually, it doesn't last. Because the only thing you're saying, hey, basically say, hey, this person, hey, all you have to do is stay in jail and they stay in prison for the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years. That's what you're telling them to do. It's like, that's prison. When you can't do what you want to do, you're in a prison. And essentially, all you're trying to do is convince her to stay in prison for the next 3 to 5 years. And essentially, she go on to break out of prison.
That's sad.
If you look at a person who has been here at this job and they have this thoughts, right? Do you think 50 years down the line that she's still in the company?
No.
Exactly. So you basically delaying the inevitable, right?
Her from finding meaningful work by keeping her into a job that she isn't having meaningful work in. Like, I am actively preventing her from finding alignment and balance in her life and meaningful work that she can love. We're so we have such loss aversion that we're like, we're scared. We're
That's
like,
why I
terrified.
told you about that story about the medical student, third-year medical student. You can tell him or her that, hey, you like it. You say, no, I don't like it. I hated it. Okay, quit. I can't.
I can't quit. What are you? That's stupid. Truth.
Yeah,
like, that's not.
So I worked all my life to get to the point where I can go to get accepted to medical school. I spent so much money for the past 2 years to go through 3 years of medical school. Now you're telling me to quit. So you say, well, you either quit or continue to be in prison for the next 40 years. Not only that you have to finish medical school,
right?
It
just gets worse.
Then you got to go practice.
Right. It only gets worse.
If I present that, right, loss aversion is so strong that even in the face of that, horrible image of having to do this thing for the next 40 years, they still can't quit of reality.
It's not just sad, it's heart-wrenching, because this is where it connects to me of like the love, right? My daughter didn't get a chance to do that. But I saw her bring her love out in her own, short time that she had on this earth, right? But like when I see other people squandering that away, that is heart-wrenching for me. We all deserve the ability to be the best human that we could possibly be in the short amount of time that we have here. And if you are in this world and you aren't doing that, I feel terrible. It makes me sick to my stomach, honestly. This is why
I look at a kid who is fighting for a chance at life. And here you look at a person who is completely healthy and has all the faculties and all the opportunity in life, decides to go and bang their head against the fucking wall. And to me,
what are you doing?
That is so illogical when I look at it.
It's a waste.
It's a big waste.
It's a
and
waste.
It's self-inflicting misery and pain. You say, hey, my life sucks, and I go, basically, trying to sabotage your life. And to me, that is the contrast you see when you have a person who can see this little baby who is fighting for even a slightest chance at life, and a person who squanders it. That it is so, like you say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what the word is.
Here's the thing: is if I can help, I'm going to try to help. This is why we're doing what we're doing. This is for both of us. Like if I had to guess, one of the things, it's heart-wrenching for you looking back on your own life and going, I squandered so much of it. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to help other people to make sure that I can help them to go, don't do this. Like, you don't have to do this. There is a different path, and I'm going to help you to find another path. I'm going to find it myself, and then I'm going to help bring other people along with it, right? That's meaningful work, right? That's what Quentin Tarantino did in his own roundabout sort of way with movies. He found something that helped him to unlock what he loved, and now he gives back to a lot of other people to help them do that as well in any way, shape, or form that he can. If it's movies, it's great. It doesn't matter. Like, we're not talking about movies with
you're talking about this guy. What kind of talent this guy have? You think about movie, all you do is watching movies. How do you make a living out of movie? Right. Well, look at Quentin Tarantino.
That's right.
Yeah, right? And so he's like, oh, you gotta be useful to society. Whatever you do isn't useful. But you look at him, right? You look at a guy who say, I like to speak of new words, right? You look at the guy who writes a dictionary. Right. The thing is, this is what I'm saying is people don't think straight. They think, hey, I have to go provide a physical labor of a service for people to have value. Value comes from so many places, right? It doesn't matter what it is you want.
It comes from love. It comes from love.
People can say, hey, I can do makeup, right? Well, you look at all the movies and all the makeup and all the costume design and all that. Well, you look at all those people. Somebody has to do that, and it's not like they are homeless out in the street, And let's say I love to go fishing. I fish all the time. And you say, well, how would you make money? How would you make a living fishing? Well, that's the thing. It's because you are narrow-minded in your thinking about. That's why I say in company, people look at company and say, well, if you tell people not to do anything, then they won't produce anything. And to me, that is actually the opposite. Because the thing is, I like to swim, or I like to go scuba diving, or I like to do explorations, or I like to do go finding junk stuff or whatever. Whatever that is, your heart desire has a value to someone. And when you do that, right, you become world class. Not only that you are satisfied with the life that you have, but you're also going to be world class at what you do, meaning meaningful work, but you also get paid handsomely for it.
Right. Because other people are so not only because you're so good at it, but other people are so stuck in this loop of the other side of everything. Well, no, I'm saying like it's you.
The value is great.
The value is great. So like it's almost like you have no competition either. So it's like the value is great, and you have no competition, and like you're just on an island getting to do whatever you want to do with
nobody can compete with you with being you. No competition.
Like, I suppose you could extrapolate this whole entire conversation out to let's go ahead and play your guys' games. Like people should be able to do what they love, connect their elephant and the rider together, and bring that out with their full values into meaningful work. And if everybody did that, what would happen? I don't know the answer to that, because the question then is going to be, well, who's going to be the asshole that goes and sells stuff for a company that doesn't want to sell stuff for that company? And I don't know the answer to that.
Why is sales guy going to be an asshole?
I said, who's going to go be the jackass that does the stuff that nobody else wants to do?
I do.
This is what I'm saying. I'm trying to play devil's advocate. We've already talked. I mean, I think we already know the answer to this, but it's like because everybody goes, well, you can't always just do what you want to do, and that's always the answer. Whenever somebody says like
somebody has to do the hard job, right?
Somebody's got to do the stuff they don't want to do, right? Like that's just like that's
a wrong way of thinking.
That's beehive mentality. Honestly, is what it is, right? It's not 90% chimp, 10% bee. That's 99% bee and like 1% chimp. That's what that is. It's like
that's just 100% bee.
It's 100% bee. Yeah, you're right. Like it's like no, you're not a fucking bumblebee. Like you are a 90% chimp and a 10% bee. I mean, yeah, you want the connection. You want to help other people. Like we want to help other people. Like we're doing this to help other people.
But you cannot. But this is what we're talking about: DDO, right, and DDI. Without the DDI, there's no DDO.
There is no DDO. Right.
So
exactly.
you cannot be an organizational person without an individual first. So you have to explore yourself first.
Yes.
Understand what it is going to give you the energy.
How can you help the O?
Do that and then bring that into the O and make a DDO. Because the thing is, you cannot have the DDO is automatic.
Right.
When you put two or more DDIs together, you get DDO. DDO is not something you create. It's something you form. It forms out of an association between among the DDIs. So the 90% chimp is still valid, and the 10% B, the organizations and the connection, that's just that piece where you connect with people and it becomes a hive.
I agree. If you told me I had to give up 10% of my life, my time, and for the rest of my life to sacrifice for a group of people that I really enjoyed being around, I would say, yeah, I'd fucking do that. 10%, I can do that. Like, what, talking like, 24 hours in a day, what's 10% of that? 2.4 hours a day. I could give 2.4 hours a day, hopefully some of it's sleeping, but, I could give 2.4 hours, or let's say 16 waking hours and 10% of that. Fine. I could give 1.6 hours a day, to a greater organization to
but the thing is, that's not how it works. That's not how math works.
Right.
How the wicked will work. Because the thing is, I am 100% myself, but I'm also 10% inside of the DDO.
Good point.
It doesn't have the mathematical sense because it doesn't work that way.
Mind blown. I mean, that is true. Like, okay, all right. I don't want to get into a math off with you because that is not
because
yeah. But no, I think I did understand what you just said.
It would have been a disadvantage for me debating you on that because I'm more logical and because that defies what I know as far as math is concerned. But still, I understand that in the wicked environment, in the world we live in, it doesn't work like that. They would say, hey, it violates math. And I said, well, people take something small and represent it and say, hey, you cannot violate this. Like, well, the thing is, it doesn't make sense. When you take back and look at it from the grand scheme, it doesn't make sense. But that's what I'm saying is people are I guess like they're so blindsided by always in that little box,
paradigm given,
they put themselves in the box, in that frame, in the paradigm. You say, that's why they can't think outside of it.
I mean, it's hard to go up and tell somebody, hey, does 1 + 1 always equal 2? And they go, yeah. What are you talking about, man? And you're like, no, but it doesn't, does it? And then you go through your explanation of it, like, from a thought experiment. They're like, you are a fucking idiot, and I don't want to talk about this, like, because it's I don't know. I mean, I it's one of the most fun things for me, and obviously for you as well, to say what you just said was something that was so quick and you understood, and to point that out. And intuitively, I understood what you were saying, only because.
And that's why the conversation works, because if I have to explain to you the nuance of what it means to be, hey, 1 + 1 is not always 2.
Right.
In some instances, it does equal 2. But not all the time. So you can't not use that as a rule of thumb or as a law to say, hey, it has to be this, and you're broken this law, because that's not the case. Only in this instance.
Right.
And if I have to keep telling you that, the conversation isn't going anywhere. And then if you have the reaction of, true, why am I to keep talking to you? A conversation stops, and then you and I will never talk again.
Yeah,
but
probably not a chance of a meaningful
relationship. You have this receptivity of saying, I do see that. I might not understand as much as you what I think you want me to know, but I do see there may be a possibility that I don't think that every single scenario is going to be always true.
Right.
Then yeah, so conversation can continue, but having a person that understands you makes the conversation so much energizing. Versus somebody who's like, and it's just stopped like that. And I think having that build these connections, and that connection, we get into the flow and we get lots of time.
Yeah, and now it's 9:45. And
I mean, you think about it still boggles the mind
it really
for
does,
you
man.
and I to talk to each other, just you and me, for the past 3 years.
I know it really is.
And it's like, what
fucking
the
wild.
fuck are you talking about?
It is wild. I mean,
And the thing is, eventually it's gonna have to slow down, and it's gonna start to get to the point where you guys got nothing else to say. But the thing is, in reality, it's the opposite.
Agreed. I want to put my final thought on this one because you just reminded me of, if meaningful work is contagious, let's call it the opposite of that. Non-meaningful work is toxic. It is like being dropped into toxic. It is
draining. When you don't have meaningful work, the work itself requires willpower, and it's draining you.
This is exactly what I was just talking about with one of our teammates. I could see it with her. I'm in tune with this. In lifetimes past, I would have been like, let's fight. But how can I encourage you to turn this boulder around? Or maybe I'll help push your boulder for a little bit. But the truth of the matter is, it's never going to work. Like, when the meaningful work is toxic, it's never going to get untoxic. It just doesn't work that way. I don't care how long you can endure that. There's plenty of people that endure toxic work,
non-meaningful work, get to the point where it cannot endure anymore.
Until you get to the point where you cannot endure.
And that's have to endure something. Eventually, it's gonna have to stop because you're gonna run out of willpower.
This works in all avenues of life. Because I think of like celiacs, which is I'm a celiac. Like, there's a lot of people that are 60, 70 years old that have been a celiac their entire life, and they've endured it and they've endured it and they've endured it, and they didn't know what it was, but they knew they didn't feel right or something like that, right? And the negative downstream ramifications that start to compound off of that.
Your body doesn't overcome it. It's going to succumb, not overcome.
Yes. It will just.
When you think, hey, this guy goes from 10-year-old to 30-year-old, and he can endure like 20 years. Somebody can say, I can go from 10-year-old to 60 years. I can do it for 50 years. But the thing is, it's still the endurance. It's not going to say, well, because you have 60 years of it, your body is getting so strong to overcome it. You are no longer celiac. That doesn't work ever.
Right.
It is ever. Eventually, you will succumb to it, and your body is going to lose its battle with whatever it is that it's not aligned with.
Yep.
You cannot continue to eat the frog and say, hey, eventually I will love the frog.
It's not how the universe works. Like, it is not. It'll never work that way. You're fucking miserable every day. Like, when you're a celiac from 10 years old until you're 60 years old, when every fucking meal you eat, you feel like shit. That fucking sucks.
I mean, you're talking to people who have chronic disease. They are yearning for the day that they no longer have pain. Okay.
Right.
And that is the thought of, dying. Okay. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about, because, because the thing is, you have this core directive for survival, but when you're in pain so much, that's the thought across your mind many, many times. And so you have to think about, if you continue to endure, you are putting yourself in the painful state, in the misery state. That's why people don't live long, not because they can't. It's because they lost the will to live. And when they do that, well, their life short. So it's not about longevity in the sense of longevity in the sense of how much time you have that is satisfying to you.
Yes, that's exactly it. Every day should be fulfilling for you. Even if today's your last day, everybody deserves the right to have a fulfilling day. Even if this is your last day, like, even if that's the only day you ever have in your life where your work is fulfilling, then great. At least you had a day. You know what I mean? Like, if you can do 2 days, then great. If you can do 3, great. If you could do
even better,
5,000, great. If you can do 20,000, even better. But at least you know that every day you're going to have that opportunity.
I mean, you just think about that analogy, having a longevity of freedom or a longevity of prison time. It's a dichotomy of what I just said.
Right. It's like, I cannot go through life anymore watching people do and have this conversation with somebody and go, this is and not help them now. Like I can't do it. Like I cannot fucking do it. Like I will not. It will. I can't do it. Like I mean, I'm compelled to say no. I'm not going to enable this.
You're aligned with what you know, and now because you cannot oppose that core value,
right?
Because it takes so much energy. You can do it, but it's going to take more energy for you to convince that person to continue to push on.
Yeah, and that's the beauty. The second beautiful side effect of meaningful work. Like I can pull from an insane amount of sources at this point in time that are ingrained into my brain. Like when I'm trying to,
you and I are basically, walking.
Exactly. No, I mean, like this, like without a doubt, like I know for a fact this happens all the time now, where like all of our conversations, all of the books, all of the writings, all the reflections, all this whole entire story together of Clubany, like it comes together where like I don't have to think about it anymore. It's like slow motion. When I'm seeing something happen, I'm like, oh, this is what needs to be applied here, and now whether I explicitly state that or I get them to think of that or I pull from story to illustrate it or whatever, like all these things like are this is probably no different than Quentin Tarantino when he's trying to figure out how to make Kill Bill or something like that, or Pulp Fiction, become Pulp Fiction that we get so enthralled with, where it's like, oh, well, I saw, Steve McQueen in Bullet do this XYZ or whatever, and then I studied how the filmmaker did XYZ, and I did this with 5,000 other movies. If I did this in this scenario right now, like it might get the desired effect that I'm trying to get out of this whole entire thing, because he just intrinsically knows it like the back of his hand. It is him. Like he is it, and it is him, right? It's like this is like a really profound learning for me in this moment right now of thinking back to my previous like coaching and stuff like that. I still loved my teammates, and I still loved, leading people. My red threads, if you will, were still the same red threads, right? But like I believe, like, God, this is so difficult to try to describe, because I can't say that I didn't believe what I believed before. Because if you asked me then, I would have said, yeah, no, I believe that. But like, I know that I believe now. You know what I mean? Like how I feel and have.
So yes, it's the rider belief and then the elephant belief. To simplify it, whatever you do, right? And so if you do something and you have like adverse thought about it, or you do something that you really believe in, but you have a panic attack, that means that your heart isn't in it.
Right.
Right. When your heart isn't in it, that means that it's not aligning with your body. Your body, i.e., the elephant, is not aligned with the elephant. So it has to be the brain believes it, the mind believes it, the heart also believes it. This is why when you say I believe, I really, really believe, because that's essentially a belief of aligning of the rider belief and the belief of the elephant as well.
Yeah.
Because most of the time we think we believe. That is the rider is believing in it. Yes, it's not like he's lying to himself or he's lying to the people. He thinks that way, but because it isn't aligned with the elephant, it has these conflicts.
Yeah. I can't tell my team before in the past run up that hill when I'm over there struggling with panic attacks and trying to figure out how I run up the hill still. You know what I mean? Like because I shouldn't have been running up the hill anyway, and I can't tell them to go fall. I guess you can, because I did it, but like people do this shit all the time where like you just like, and I may be completely wrong right now. Like that's one of our things is like that's built into the values of Clubany is humility. Like I don't know anything, like, and I still, while I feel like I'm walking the path that I want to walk, I still don't know anything.
But that's important. You have to feel like you want to walk the path you want to walk, because it's not about thinking it, right? The elephant has to do the work. So the rider is the mind and the elephant is the body. The body still has to endure and the body still has to do the work. So it has to be the feeling. The feeling has to be there, because to me, a memory, it all comes from my feeling. I feel this. I can go to the beach. I feel like I am enjoying myself. The thing is, that's what I'm saying. I told you many times before is, in some cases where a guy who's making $1 million a year and he's stressed out and is so like angry at himself for making only $1 million, and because his neighbor makes 1.1 million, because but that is the feeling. It has nothing to do with anything, right? You get my point? Because the thing is, you think, hey, I'm in this wonderful paradise. the beach, the breeze, everything is great. I don't have to worry. My kids are healthy. Everything's so grand. But you have to find some nitpicky. Hey, it's I don't like the water. It has some seaweed in it. Or like, I mean, so you think about it. If you feel like this beach, whatever you're on, is a piece of shit, it's a piece of shit. Your memory is what you feel. If you feel good, that's your memory. If you don't feel good, that's also your memory. But the feeling is because the body has to go through and endure it. And your elephant, your mind can influence how you feel and kind of get them to where it can feel right most of the time. But your feeling is what determines where you go. Because the elephant can't carry the elephant over to the left or the right where he wants to go. He has to get the elephant to go to the direction he want to go. Let's say he want to go right. He has to kind of steer the elephant to the right.
Right.
He cannot just physically jump down and then lift the elephant up and carry the elephant to the right. You think about it. So the feeling is important, even though we want the consistency between the rider and elephant, the mind and the heart. That's the ultimate combinations. But the feeling, to me, it is so primitive that that's what's gonna make you, whether you have a satisfying life or not. It is your feeling about it. So how do you control your core values and your control, quote unquote, control instability to get your feeling to be more positive than negatives?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Final thought. It's watch the reactions, right? We just learned that in Love and Work, right? Like watch the responses that people give to you. If you want to know that if your work is meaningful for you, watch how other people respond to your love coming out, right? Like, is it the responses that you want, or is it people going, nah, it's a bunch of bullshit? Like, I don't believe them. Like, or do they believe you? Because like I can tell you, Nazim, who just left the team for the visa stuff or whatever, he's still texting me. He just texted me today, like a really funny thing about meaningful work. I know he's still reading these things. He's coming to our team meetings, even now that he's an employee anymore, on Fridays when we have our team connects. Like, watch the reactions to other people. They know when your meaningful work is impactful for them or not. You can go watch a Quentin Tarantino movie. And I don't know if you've ever seen Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs or whatever. I don't know about you, but when I go watch a Quentin Tarantino movie, I feel it. Whatever he was trying to get across, you feel it.
To build a connection with you. Most of his movie has this connection. Whether you're watching that.
That was such a good movie too. Yeah, I mean, I don't like that topic, but I enjoyed the movie. Quentin Tarantino puts a lot of love in his stuff. You know what I mean? And you want to come back. Like Nazim wants to still be a part of this stuff, right?
That it shows, because when you love something, it's love that comes out.
Right.
Because Quentin Tarantino, he loves movie. And when he makes movie, his love comes out. So you feel it. So you say, hey, he put his love into it. It's because he loves it. So so it's not like, it's like, that's what I'm saying.
Like, this is who he is, and this is what he does, and this is what you're going to get.
Saying is, in the formula sense, he put in love, right? He loves it. Love comes in, and then love comes out, right? And so it's just one ingredient of, I love to do this thing, and love multiplies. So you say, hey, 1 equals 3.
Right.
It doesn't mean multiply. It's just 1. Like, hey, this is my love of movie. I love to watch movie. I love movies in general. And then, right, love comes out of the work. Love come out of the, hey, that's 1, and it multiplies to many more.
It's not just 1. It's exponential growth out of that.
That's what I'm saying. You're not even adding anything. It's just love by itself, and it starts to, like,
exponential.
It just boom, makes it come out.
Right.
So you look at it, it's not mathematical, makes sense, logical. It's not mathematical, logical, because
not at all. Like, not at all. Okay, all right. We gotta put a pin on this one, because it's way over time. All right. My question is if you're blessed to have meaningful work in your life, how are you choosing to share that with others? So,
but you should have meaningful work in your life. It's not about whether you're blessed or not.
Right. That is a great point. Yes. Everybody deserves to have meaningful work in your life. So you should say, do you have meaningful work?
Whether you're blessed to have it now.
Right. Yes. Fair enough. Or you're still searching, but you should still be searching. You should always be searching.
You are, everybody should have it. It's just, are you blessed to, or you found it?
All right. That's a good place to end it. All right. Thanks everybody for joining, and hope you enjoyed the convo. We'll see you on Monday.
See you Monday.